Okay, I'm ready to roll.
Marker.
And rolling.
Rolling.
If the artist makes the painting on canvas, we print the painting on canvas. It's just artist's cotton canvas, the exact same canvas actually that an artist would use. Or if they make a work on panel, then we print it on panel.
And then it's actually layers of ink, similar to what comes out of a printer, but
the actual chemical composition of the ink is pretty much the same as acrylic paint. And we have a color gamut that is very similar. So it's pretty identical in every way, from substrate to the actual chemistry of the ink that you're looking at.
the first thing that we work towards is accuracy of the piece compared to the original. We want to be able to put pieces next to each other and not be able to tell the difference. A good example of that would be Dustin Rousseau, who's one of our artists, came and visited us.
He actually looked at prints and thought that they were originals and was very confused because he thought he'd received the originals.
And they're not even the final product. Actually, they were rejected prints, so they weren't up to our standard, but he couldn't tell the difference.
This is the original oil painting. This is Inkberry Holly. This is the original, and this is the SYNOGRAPH. And I mean, so there you go. I don't know what else to say. We're just so pleased with the viscosity, really, that we could get, because it's very hard to recreate oil painting, especially when it's this fine and when it has so much linseed oil in it or other mediums to make it like super thin.
There's so much that you don't think you see just on first glance, and then you take a look at it through a million photos of it from different angles and you realize what's actually there.
All the magic is in the scanning and the software. What we're really doing is creating that mountain of ink.
It's just layer on top of layer until we get a bunch of nice texture. The surface that we start printing on, we can go 5 millimeters off, which is actually pretty substantial compared to what most painters paint. But there's a lot of artists where there's no need to go that deep because oil paint really sinks into the texture of the canvas or the board that they're using. So each piece is so individual in how much texture they need that it's such a case-by-case process to build up that texture to exactly what it needs to look best.
It's more durable because of the way it's cured, not because of the chemical composition. The reason being is it's instantaneously cured with UV lamps. So it's kind of like a flash freeze, unlike regular paint, which takes time to dry.
They're very durable in both handling and environmental circumstances. You don't have any edges flaking off, and you don't have the worry about different substrates and mediums mixing and all of these things. I mean, really, you can take a cloth and wipe down the pieces in a way that you would never, ever touch an original piece of art.
It's a long process, from the artist's submission to our panel of people who decide whether or not the work is good enough to print. Then we reach out to that artist, the artist sends the physical work, and then we inspect it all over again. Once we've been through that process, it then goes onto the scanner. Then we have to assemble it in our software and figure out how we're actually going to interpret the layers. In a lot of cases, we study the original so closely that we may put just as much time into the reproduction as the artist did to paint it. So it's an extremely long process for each piece, and it's a very expensive process. In the very beginning, we really did have to convince artists that we would treat their painting with the utmost respect, that we would capture all the detail, and that we wouldn't do anything to it that they wouldn't approve of. But mostly, the artists are really excited to work with the printer as a new tool. They see it like a pencil or a paintbrush. And if they can manipulate their original work in a way that is like aesthetically really pleasing to them, They just see it as an enhancement or just another way to be expressive. It's just so surprising to receive this royalty, to love the way that their painting has been reproduced, to feel very proud of it, to know that a lot of people are buying it, enjoying it. They're happy folks. I mean, our artists are surprised at how well this is doing. When the artists see the finished product and they see the quality, then they're just kind of, can I say amazed? I'm gonna go with amazed.